Hey, what's up guys? It's Sir More Speed here, and today we got stressed to try in 7.33e, the patch that was only tailored to nerf heroes for the pro seed. Nah, but in all seriousness, I actually do have some builds for you guys to try today. I got one safe lane build, another safe lane build, so two safe lane builds, a support build, maybe, an off lane build, and another off lane build. Oh, and a mid build. The last one's a mid build. So we got a build for each role, and yeah, let's get into it. Alright, and Guess the Rank went very, very well last time, so I want to do another episode of Guess the Rank for you guys. If you don't know what Guess the Rank is and you're new to the channel, basically what you do is you submit your game down below. You post your match ID and you say the hero that you played. Then, I will take a look at your game without looking at your rank beforehand, and based on your gameplay, I will try to guess what rank you are. It's very, very fun because it's not only educational, but also very funny when I'm either spot on or spot off on the rank. If you want me to look at your game, give you some tips and tricks on how to play, and then guess your rank, comment it down below. Alright, before we get into the main part of the video, I do want to let you guys know that I'm not only posting videos here on YouTube, I also frequently post videos on the website. If you don't know what I'm talking about, almost every single day I'm posting a new video to the Game League website. We're going to teach you guys in depth about how to get to the next level. So if you want to become absolutely broken and really take your game to the next level, I'm going to be able to help you, because sometimes the guides on YouTube, there's either not enough of them, they're not specific, or they're just tier lists, which I know you guys love, but at the end of the day, the Game League website is going to help you get to the next level. So click the link down below and sign up. Alright, so getting into the first one is a safe lane build. If you're looking for a hero that is not nerfed, we got Drow Ranger. Drow was nerfed a couple patches ago. She was very, very meta for a period of time, and then was hit pretty heavily and fell off. However, I think people have come to the realization that her current Ags is actually not that bad. It's the old shard, which kind of sucks because it's triple the gold, but it does give you stats, makes you pretty tanky, and is an upgraded version of the old shard. It's not just the old shard, it is better, and so that's something to consider. And so yeah, a lot of the other meta carries have been nerfed, and I will say I think Drow's pretty good against Terrorblade, which is a hero that's on the come up, and is pretty decent against some of the other meta heroes as well. And so basically here's how the build goes. There's two different variations. The first one is you buy a Midas and then you go Ags. The purpose of this build is to farm really quickly and hit a later timing. Drow has incredible 10 and level 15 talents, especially at level 20 she gets another multi-shot talent, and so essentially you can play this hero to use the Midas to get your XP up and farm Ancients, hitting incredible level timings and going by that. And the Ags plus the Midas makes you farm fast because the Ags benefits from Midas attack speed, allowing you to clear Ancients very quickly using the explosion of the hypothermia. However, the other build you can go is kind of a variation of this, and is sort of the old build that Drow would go, which is just Dragonlance, right? You go Treads 1, maybe a Wraithband, then you go Dragonlance, and after Dragonlance you go Ags. And so the Dragonlance is going to help you be a little bit tankier and take fights in the early game. If the enemy team is sieging your towers, you can show up, help out, and take them out with a multi-shot and high-range auto attacks. And of course, with the Aghanim Scepter, you're going to be reducing regen, and so you counter heroes like Morphling, the Io Leshrac that's becoming popular, you counter that, right? You're pretty good against auras. Something like a Darkseer you can be not great against because he has surge against your slows, but you can deal with the auras and the healings that he provides. Alright, getting into the next carry build we got here is Io Slark. So this is actually more of a strategy rather than a build, but I do think it's very potent and something to note. If you have a support friend with you, then you can opt to go this build. Or if you just have an IO in your game, you can give this a shot. I will say I like Slark in general, and I made a video recently on it, on how it's actually a good offlaner. But moving a step ahead, the reason why I like IO Slark a lot is I feel that Slark's biggest weakness in the laning stage is his inability to sustain. The hero's Q literally makes him take damage. Essence Shift is a great trading ability, however, you have to trade for 5 to 10 seconds to actually get value out of it, and that means you're gonna tank a lot of damage. If you're against something like a Rubik and a Timbersaw, even though you're against a melee hero you would theoretically pressure with Essence Shift, it doesn't really play out like that because you take just too much damage. It doesn't work. The Essence Shift eventually wears off, and you don't feel so good about your trade. And so what does Io do? Well, Io solves that problem. It gives Slark sustain that he desperately needs, and then on top of that, it buffs Slark up by giving him attack speed. Overcharge giving Slark attack speed is incredible because when he commits with pounce, you can click overcharge and you trade so well as the Essence Shift builds up very, very fast. Also, Slark has a bit of a mana problem throughout certain parts of the early to mid game, and Io solves that as well. So I will say that Io Slark can lose to certain lanes. For instance, something like a Venomancer can cause major problems for Slark. Even though you actually can outplay Veno by purging the Gale and getting on top of him with with Pounce, it's very hard against Poison Touch, and something like a Death Prophet will also cause you problems. So against ranged heroes like these high pressure ranged lanes or like a double ranged lane, I still think you're going to have a hard time and not do well. But against melee heroes that Slark is traditionally good against, it's even better and it's a great combo. Alright, next let's talk about the support build. Actually, who am I kidding? Guys, if you're a support player, I don't know why you're watching this video. It's a new build video. If you're playing support, you should be buying 4 Staff and Glimmer Cape. Alright, go back into your hole, stop making so much noise, stop asking for new builds. I don't want to hear it. Okay, I really don't want to hear it anymore. Buy 4 Staff, buy Glimmer Cape, buy Mana Boots, and stop hoping for new things. Okay, your place is at the bottom, and you don't deserve anything new. All right, for the support build we're going to be talking about here today, it's Enigma support. And basically, this is something that's risen in popularity ever since the buff to Enigma's Q. It does 45 more damage at level 1, which, isn't insane. It's definitely not insane, but they also, okay, here's the bigger part. They buff that, which is nice, helps your laning, and it is noticeable. 45 damage at level 1 is good, right? It is good. You're spamming this ability, it adds up. It adds up, right? That's about 150 damage after 3 casts, and that's reasonable by the 2-minute marker, something like that. So it's noticeable. And then on top of that, they heavily buffed Midnight Pulse. Heavily buffed Midnight Pulse. This ability is massive now. They made the radius from 550 to 650, and so essentially when you put this down in a team fight, it just hits everyone. It does so much damage, right? It does 11% of their current HP per second for like 11 seconds. It does so much damage, has a ton of impact, and then you can scale. So the build you go is Q at level 1, then you take Eidolons at level 2 and 3, then you take Midnight Pulse at level 4, then maxing Eidolons by 7, taking Black Hole at 6, and then you max your stun and then Midnight Pulse. And I think there are games where you can just max Midnight Pulse if you're against a bunch of tanky guys, but yeah, the stun is very, very valuable. And the item build you go is Solar Crest. The reason why is it allows you to farm quickly with Medallion. The Blightstone feels quite good in the laning stage, right? So you go the Blightstone in the lane, then you go Medallion, that feels good for farming, you click it on the creeps, and then when you're trying to kill heroes, which typically will be supports because they have low armor, they're bad against Eidolons, and they're bad against minus armor, you click the Solar Crest on them and you can try to take them out. Alright, then for the offlane build, we got offlane Spirit Breaker. Basically, if you don't want to actually play a farming hero, well, you farm in the mid game, okay? Here's how Spirit Breaker works as an offlaner. You have good base stats, so you just last hit early on, right? You just get CS. That's all you need to know. Then after you CS it up, what you do is you buy a wand, you buy a windlace, then you buy phase boots, then you buy soul rings. So essentially you buy a little bit of sustain with magic wand, then you get your movement speed, your windlace, your phase boots. Then you buy a soul ring so you have actual mana and it gives you quite a bit of an HP pool. And then you buy Shadow Blade. And this build's great because the Shadow Blade with the phase boots is really high DPS. The damage and attack speed from Shadow Blade synergizes with the damage from phase boots, and so you actually hit really hard against solo kill supports. On top of that, you farm very quickly. Ever since the buffs to Bash, you do a lot of damage to creeps, and you can actually one-shot creep waves pretty early on. Basically, all you need to try to do is get a Spell Amp neutral item. This is either going to be Fairy's Trinket at tier 1 or Vambrace at tier 2, and that's going to be the best way for you to actually one-shot creep waves. It's more total damage than movement speed, and I was taught that by a friend, and I wanted to share that with you guys as well. And then eventually you buy Aghanim Scepter to lower the cooldown of charge and be able to charge BKB units, and then Octarine Core. After that, you can go Kaya Yasha and do a ton of magic damage. It's really fun and is a blast. And another build that's really fun and has actually become popular with the nerfs to all the other Aura heroes is off-lane Ogre Magi. This build's cool because Ogre's a pretty good laner, right? He has a lot of damage, and so he can CS very well, and is quite annoying with all of the harass that he provides in the laning stage. But what you do is you go Midas, and it's not too crazy, right? This is not some hugely new build, but it's become very popular as of late, and I recommend you give it a shot. Basically, Ogre Magi can multicast Midas, which is insane. This item, right, isn't that great as a standalone item, but when you can multicast it, getting 1 to 2 extra usages out of the Midas every single time you can, well, no, not every single time, but a huge portion, right? Multicast at level 1 is 75% chance. So 75% of the time you're getting double Midas, and then when you get level 2 of multicast, 30% of the time you're getting triple Midas, which, that's obviously when it gets pretty damn crazy, right? The triple multicast is quite nuts. So Ogre Midas, what do you do after that? Well, if you're a Chad, you disassemble your Vanguard that you've purchased into an Octarine. So for a little bit of context, you will be buying Vanguard first. You should have a Magic Wand, some stats, and then you're going to go Vanguard. This allows you to be untouchable in the laning stage. From there, you go Mana Boots, then the Midas. You can actually go Midas before the Mana Boots, and I often recommend this because of the fact that at minute 7, you can take neutral items that give you mana, such as Arcane Ring, Occult Bracelet, or Tumbler's Toy, right? You can drop your Tumbler's Toy and like pop Clarities, or pop your Stick, or pop a Lotus, and that gives you a ton of mana. So there's a lot of options there. But yeah, basically, if you're a Chad, you go Octarine, you disassemble your Vanguard and Octarine. If you're low, then you go Vanguard to disassemble into Pipe, right? You use the Ring of Health from the Vanguard, turn it into Pipe. And then you turn the Vitality Booster back into a Vanguard, and then you buy a Cruisin'. And you're just really tanky with a Midas. You have a ton of levels because you have a Midas that's multicasting. You spam your Ignite, you take your Ignite talent at level 10, you max your nukes, then you max Bloodlust, you put that on your carry. It feels good, right? The hero pushes waves, it scales well, it buys auras, it's a good laner. It really is quite well rounded, and something I would highly recommend in pubs. It's easy to play, and it scales well. And then eventually you buy a Hex, right? Your late game item is Hex because you can multicast Hex. That's crazy. And then finally, for the mid build is Midas OD. I know we're going down the Midas route today. Midas Drow, Midas Ogre, Midas OD. It's just Midas is everywhere. But it's kind of a nice thing to have attack speed on this hero, right? And Sumail did this. He dominated Liquid. Now, to be fair, Liquid kind of had a weird strat, and the game was very bizarre. They had a safe lane Meepo that Nisha played, and Mickey went mid as Mars and didn't do too well. So it was a bit of a scuffed game, I will admit, but Sumail popped off nonetheless. He went Midas, literally no boots, just Midas. After the Midas, he went for brown boots and a blink, and he used this as a way to get around the fights and position for his Q. He seems to think that with treads, you can't really hit anyone because you can't really get into position, which I guess makes sense, right? That's pretty cool. After the blink, you go back for the treads for a little bit of attack speed to farm, and then you buy Dragonlance. And the Dragonlance you turn into Hurricane Pike. And the reason why this is pretty important to go this order of items is you want Blink and Pike at a pretty early timing. Because when you blink in, you want to be able to get a couple of hits off, then click Pike, and then hit them with Pike. OD without BKB is pretty easily killed, and therefore the blink and the Pike allows you to maneuver around the fight and look for solo targets. What you look for in the team fights is someone isolated, who you can hit 2 or 3 times then Pike, or look for 2 people next to each other, because what you do is you blink in, you Astral one of them, then you hit the other a couple times, and then Pike them and do the same thing. And so essentially you're looking for opportunities to not jump into 4 or 5 heroes, you're looking for opportunities to find isolated people. After that, he bought Witchblade, which I have to imagine is because it allows you to stick on top of people while autoing them, and because of the fact that you have a ton of int on this hero, the Witchblade does a lot of damage. It also gives you some well-needed armor. He was against a Meepo, right? So it gives you some armor that you want, some attack speed. It's definitely a good OD item, no doubt. And then from there, he bought a Moonshard. He didn't upgrade the Witchblade. He didn't go BKB. He went Moonshard, but eventually went back for the BKB, and he dumpstered them. But alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed these builds in 7.33E to try. Let me know which one you're going to try. And if there's builds that you've been trying in 7.33 that you think are really strong, let me know in the comment section down below. I might make a full video out of it. I definitely plan to at some point, making a full video out of the builds that you guys actually do. And so yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and I'm out. Peace!
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the Game Leap website, where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace!